Good afternoon. It's meteorologist Michael Fecca. Welcome back to the afternoon weather update. We do this here every day during the work weeks, typically Monday through Friday. But when we do have some inclement weather moving through on the weekends, we like to pop in here and give you guys a little midday update. But looking outside right now, you may have noticed not a whole lot has happened today. And you remember we had that alert in effect for today for that potential of some snow moving through in the morning, transitioning over to a little bit of a mix and then rain through the afternoon and into this evening. However, that has just not happened at all. What's really going on here is we've actually had some dry air that's been in place over the tri-state, and that has prevented a lot of that moisture from the west to actually reach us and reach the ground. So a lot of the snow was predicted to move in from the west, but as it moved in, it just got eaten up by all of that dry air, and it really hasn't saturated all that much either. So the precipitation that still continues to move in from the west will still have to overcome that dry air through the rest of this afternoon. But now, because we're in the afternoon, temperatures have warmed up above freezing. So now we're not too concerned with any sort of wintry precipitation. There may still be some chances for a few sleet pellets to come out of any rain showers that move on through. But other than that, not really expecting much more in terms of wintry precipitation for the rest of today. We've also had that winter weather advisory issued for Wayne, Edwards, and Wabash County yesterday. That has now since been canceled as of this morning because that snow just really hasn't come to fruition. However, it is still snowing a lot farther to our north, northern central Illinois and Indiana getting hit with a good amount of snow. Areas near Indianapolis also dealing with a little bit of that dry air as well. So it's not just a localized issue, it's kind of a little bit more of a widespread one, especially once you get east of the river. But here's a look at our current Doppler radar. So here's a look at just our raw reflectivity. So this does not show you necessarily the lower level cloud cover, doesn't show you the difference in precipitation. It just shows you what is reaching the ground. And here is what we're seeing is finally reaching the ground. We're starting to get maybe a little bit of precipitation showing up there in areas like Gallatin, Union, Webster, and Hopkins County. Again, it is falling pretty much as rain, but I wouldn't be surprised, especially with any of these higher reflectivity returns in those reds and oranges, there could be some little sleet pellets mixed in there as well. And the same thing up to the north there in southern Illinois, getting this little heavier band of precipitation. It's mixed with rain and sleet, but that's going to be lifting up towards Wayne County there, and with that, a warmer push of air as well. So we'll continue to warm up here and transition pretty much all the way to rain through the rest of the night tonight. But let's take a better look at the radar loop from this morning and into this afternoon. It's a little bit harder to see because the snow shows up as gray and white here, but it did show up going over the tri-state this morning. However, with that drier air closer to the surface, as it fell, it evaporated before it reached the ground. So we never actually saw any of that hit the ground this morning. And now that the air is finally beginning to saturate, we're likely only going to get some more of that rainfall moving in from the west. And another way we can kind of visualize where that rain is versus the snow versus that mix, we can actually use something you're familiar with when we're tracking out severe weather. It's actually the debris signature. A lot of the times we use this to find out if there's any debris getting lifted up from thunderstorms or tornadoes, but in this instance, we can actually use it to determine where we're seeing some of those different ice pellets, rain droplets, snowflakes, and they come across as lower correlation. So here where you're seeing those greens and those whites and those yellows, that's where they're picking up on a little bit of that mix. So going from maybe some flurries over to a mix of sleet and then eventually just rain, and then behind all of that is more rainfall. So we're likely going to see a little bit of sleet here with the onset of that precipitation, but again, it's going to transition fairly quickly. So looking at the rest of our afternoon and into this evening, still hanging on to some of those rain showers through tonight. The bulk of this precipitation looks to lift off to our northeast by around 8, 9 o'clock, but we're still looking at a few straggling showers through the overnight hours. And as colder air works in behind this system, I couldn't even completely rule out that chance for a few flurries early tomorrow morning. But outside of that, we should just remain cloudy, dry, and cold for our Sunday. And here's a look at your forecast through tomorrow. There may be a few cracks of sunshine in the afternoon, but very chilly. We hardly make it out of that freezing mark, 32 degrees by tomorrow afternoon. And looking out ahead, beyond today and tomorrow, we do have that chance for some more snow Monday night into Tuesday. Again, it doesn't look like a huge winter storm for us. Again, it looks like maybe another quick little hit of snowfall for us, but it's enough to maybe cause, again, a few minor issues on roadways as you're traveling, especially waking up early Tuesday morning. So here's kind of the rundown on what is headed our way for Monday night into Tuesday. So I'm going to show you both the models here. They are in fairly good agreement. The only difference between these two models is the amount of moisture they're lofting up into the region. The GFS is a little bit more moist here. It still shows a more southerly storm track, and the more southerly it is, the better odds we have of staying all snow, because that means we're well into that cool sector of the storm system. However, with it being so far south, that makes it a little bit harder for the moisture to actually lift up this far north. But in this case, the GFS still shows a pretty decent moisture return from the Gulf all the way up into the tri-state, smashing into that cooler air. That would give us that chance for some snowfall. But even with that, it's not expected to be a lot. GFS is only picking up on maybe an inch in some locations, perhaps closer to 2 inches in a few spots, but overall not a huge winter storm for us here. And looking at the European model, very similar in terms of its evolution with the GFS. However, again, that southerly storm track there, a little bit more difficult to lift that moisture up here. So that's what the European is picking up on. So even though it shows a similar timing, kind of similar evolution, similar precipitation types, it doesn't have as much moisture with it. So our snowfall totals along the European model only showing up around maybe a half an inch to an inch. So I'd say early stab at those snowfall totals. Again, if this track remains on track here for the next few days, perhaps an inch or two across the tri-state, but not really expecting a whole lot from it, but just enough for some travel issues as you wake up early Tuesday morning. And I will say, most of this falls overnight Monday, so you're going to be sleeping during most of it. But that is all I have here for the forecast. Hopefully I was able to answer any questions you guys may have had. Obviously, I know the forecast didn't really pan out all that well today. So that is all I've got here. So I'm going to hop off the live stream. I'm not seeing any questions unless my Facebook is just being a little odd, but I've got Jason here. He's watching from Cloverport. He wants to bring on the snow next week. You know what? I'm happy if it just stays away, but unfortunately it's winter, so we can't really avoid that. But that is all I'm seeing here. So I'm going to hop off the live stream. I'll send you guys over to 14 News at 6 tonight. We aren't actually going to be on air. We're going to be streaming. So the same way you're watching this now, you can watch our full newscast with news and weather at 6 o'clock tonight. So until then, everybody, stay safe and have a great rest of your night.